Ladies and gentlemen, this is Nikhil Parekh from Ahmedabad city, India. In this video, I shall be giving you a recitation of my poem titled Womb, that is dedicated to my mother. So, without wasting a further instant, at this spectacularly awesome moment, let me commence with the recitation of my poem titled Womb. There was no mountain born on this universe which was more formidable than it, coming even in infinitesimal iota, abreast its impregnable tenacity. There was no fire born on this universe which was more vivaciously flamboyant than it, as it incessantly swirled in the isles of vibrant compassion. There was no color born on this universe which was more gorgeous than it, as it resembled the angels in the sweltering heat of the day, as well as each instant of the voluptuously alluring night. There was no sky born on this universe which was more fathomless than it, as it was the procreator of every tangible entity wandering merrily on this colossal planet. There was no flower born on this universe which was more fragrant than it, as it bloomed fabulously into a scent that caressed the souls of countless loitering aimlessly alike. There was no contraption born on this universe which was more contemporary than it, as it incredulously withstood the test of all times, evolving the most ingeniously superior organism, like brilliant streaks of white electricity in blue sky. There was no ocean born on this universe. There was no ocean born on this universe which was more unfathomable than it, as it ubiquitously disseminated its waves of harmony and perennial bliss to all those shivering in torrential pain, to all those shivering in torrential pain. There was no magnet born on this universe which was more attractive than it, as it captivated even the most remotely alien of persona in its stupendously divine swirl. There was no philosophy born on this universe which was more sacrosanct than it, as it preached the most holistic existence even centuries before you were born. There was no truth born on this universe which was more irrefutable than it, as it triumphantly massacred the very essence of blatant lies from even the most oblivious wind of this gigantic earth. Gigantic earth. There was no power born on this universe. There was no power born on this universe which was more invincible than it, as it defended you against the most mightiest of attacks. Within a single flash of its eye, within a single flash of its eye, there was no entertainment born on this universe which was more efficacious than its flurry of boisterous activity, pacifying each of your overwhelmingly frazzled senses with its miraculous enchantment and charm. There was no sun born on this universe. There was no sun born on this universe which was more dazzling than it, as it spread the aura of its marvelously omnipotent shine, as it spread the aura of its marvelously omnipotent shine, to each house miserably staggering in ghastly blackness. There was no star born on this universe which was more resplendent than it, as it filtered its charismatically symbiotic beams to profoundly illuminate the disdainful caricature of unearthly darkness. There was no wind born on this universe which was more serene than it, as it insurmountably mollified every traumatically agonized individual in the river of its unending love. There was no bird born on this universe. There was no bird born on this universe which was more serene than it, as it insurmountably mollified. There was no bird. There was no bird born on this universe which could fly higher than it, as it indefatigably soared higher than the satiny clouds, uplifting the impoverished into an entrenchment of celestial goodness. There was no mysticism born on this universe which was more enigmatic than it, as it engulfed even the most treacherously mundane of entity in the poignantly escalating wave of its mesmerizing enthrallment. There was no complexion born on this universe which was more beautiful than it, as it imparted perennial shelter to the profusely infirm in its unbelievably passionate interiors. There was no victory born on this universe which was more greater than it, as it tirelessly fought not just for itself, but for shielding the lives of boundless innocent, but for shielding the lives of boundless innocent about to be born. There was no tree born on this universe which was more bountiful than it, as it perpetually bestowed the most wonderfully priceless gift of humanity in each hopelessly barren cavity, in each hopelessly barren cranny, in each hopelessly barren cranny of this gargantuan world, There was no smile born on this universe which was more benevolent than it, as it magnanimously embraced even the most hideously sinister in its heavenly swirl, giving all an equal opportunity to diffuse their quota of goodness on their planet. Giving all an equal opportunity to diffuse their quota of goodness on this planet. There was no emotion born on this universe which was more effusively volatile than it, as it fulminated into the most glorious catharsis of the conscience, every unveiling moment striking the chord of humanity with incomprehensible alike. There was no blessing born on this universe. There was no blessing born on this universe which was more benign than it, as it spread the sweetness of symbiotic survival, granted every philanthropic wish of yours even before you could nimbly utter it. There was no richness born on this universe which was more opulent than it, as it made you feel the most prosperous organism alive, even an even an infinite even an infinite more births even an infinite more births after even an infinite more births you were destined to take birth again. There was no aroma born on this universe which was more omnipresent than it, as it inhabited each dwelling where even the most inconspicuous sign of life relentlessly relentlessly propelling the chapter of existence to continue till the time God wanted it to. Relentlessly propelling the chapter of existence, relentlessly propelling the chapter of existence to continue till the time God wanted it to. Till the time God wanted it to, propelling the chapter of existence to continue till the time God wanted it to. There was no enchantment born on this universe which was more stupefying than it, as it cast its majestically spellbinding spirit to every soul, withering abominably towards the corridors of threadbare extinction. There was no ray, there was no ray born on this universe which was more handsome than it, as it blazed a trail of ultimate splendor, even on the most pathetically dwindling paths that it caressed. There was no energy born on this universe which was more everlasting than it, as it single-handedly bore the brunt of all the ferociously diabolical around, unshakably rising to every ruthless disaster like a supremely embellished princess. There was no summit born on this universe which was more towering than it, as it overshadowed every shade of the invidiously evil with its royal grace and omniscient light, with its royal grace and omniscient light. There was no bond born on this universe which was more stronger than it, as it astoundingly fortified its oligarchic grip, upon the candle of compassionate empathy for unbelievable more lives to come. There was no sword born on this universe. There was no sword born on this universe which was more mightier than it, as it beheaded even the most infinitesimal of devil, lingering insidiously around its innocuously frolicking children, as as it beheaded even the most infinitesimal of devil, lingering insidiously around its innocuously frolicking children. There was no seed born on this universe. There was no seed born on this universe which was more fertile than it, as it blossomed into a festoon of newness and excitement. As it blossomed into a festoon of newness and excitement, every unfurling minute, spawning the most exotic creation of Almighty Lord. Spawning the most exotic creation of Almighty Lord. There was no season born on this universe which was more ravishing than it, as it showered its virtue of ever pervading righteousness upon each molecule of God, 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 in an enclosure of harmonious unity and humanitarian pride. There was no path born on this universe which was more enticing than it, as it unrelentingly intrigued countless with its incomprehensibly unending prowess to serve all mankind. There was no continent born on this universe which was more fascinating than it, as it harbored each element of prosperous survival, in its amicable corridors, ensuring that all those benevolent reached the pinnacle of glittering success. There was no honey. There was no honey born on this universe which was more sweeter than it, as it wholeheartedly distributed the winds, of united existence, propagated the essence of solidarity in every passionate heart on this earth. There was no rainbow born on this universe which was more magically striking than it, as it unfurled into an unsurpassable myriad of enriching shades to grant all those deluged in drudgery an absolute reprieve from sinful malice. There was no soil born on this universe which was more ravishing than it, as it culminated into an emphatic breeze of friendship, as it culminated into an emphatic breeze of friendship in the most malevolent of storm and harmony alike. There was no relationship born on this universe which was more amiable than it, as it offered its ubiquitous wings, as it offered its ubiquitous wings to all those treacherously deprived who needed it, before offering them unequivocal shelter for the freezing night. There was no artist born on this universe. There was no artist born on this universe who was more passionate than it, as it assimilated all the beauty of this globe in its cradle of ebullient happiness. There was no sound born on this universe which was more melodious than it, as it euphorically sung the tunes of a splendidly incarcerating life, mitigating all those engulfed with horrifically despicable despair. There was no meadow born on this universe which was more sprouting than it, as it blissfully harnessed each enlightening attribute of existence with its own blood, as it blissfully harnessed each enlightening attribute of existence with its own blood, reinforcing each bit of the gruesomely bad with the irrevocable thunderbolts of divine life. There was no reflection. There was no reflection born on this universe which was more marvelous than it, as it consecrated even the most lecherous bits of dilapidated ash with the unprecedented love lingering in its soul. There was no magic born on this universe which was more alluring than it, as it unbelievably spawned the most intellectual of all organisms, the most intellectual of all organisms to save the planet, from ghastly clutches of misery and stinking mice, from ghastly clutches of misery and stinking mice. There was no panacea born on this universe which was more effective than it. There was no panacea born on this universe which was more effective than it, as it instilled a rejuvenating life in even those well sunken, well sunken in beneath their gory graves and without the slightest of light. There was no mission born on this universe which was more fulfilling than it, as it accomplished the greatest purpose of the Almighty, as it accomplished the greatest purpose of the Almighty by mortally continuing his sacred chapter of existence, continuing his sacred chapter of existence, of existence. There was no current born on this universe. There was no current born on this universe which was more vividly passionate than it, as it evolved a complete life from just a capriciously changing, as it evolved a complete life from just a capriciously changing conglomerate of cells in space, rambunctiously ensuring rambunctiously ensuring that there was not the tiniest of insinuation of stillness or morbid malice. There was no idea. There was no idea born on this universe which was more incarcerating than it, as it still remained the most fascinating mechanism of chiseling a perfect organism, even in a world drowned abhorrently in robotic prejudice. Even in a world drowned abhorrently in robotic prejudice. There was no fashion on this universe which was more versatile than it, as it acclimatized itself to the most ferociously vacillating conditions, celestially metamorphosing its intricate form every now and again, to blend with the cry of painstakingly suffering humanity, to blend with the cry of painstakingly suffering humanity. There was no gift. There was no gift on this universe. There was no gift on this universe which was more precious than it, as it manifested every person's ultimate dream into a veritable reality, gave him a reason to live with astronomical pride. Even well past his own times, even well past his own times, there was no longing on this universe. There was no longing on this universe which was more ardent than it, as it triggered insatiable cloudbursts, as it triggered insatiable cloudbursts, as it triggered insatiable cloudbursts, as it triggered insatiable cloudbursts of craving for all those deplorably blind, for all those deplorably blind to witness their soul Messiah with golden sight. To witness their soul Messiah with golden sight, there was no line on this universe which was more straighter than it, as it basked, as it basked in the undefeatable glory of candid honesty, diffusing the rays of a fantastically optimistic tomorrow, diffusing the rays of a fantastically optimistic tomorrow, as each day perseveringly unveiled into the queenly night. There was no boundary. There was no boundary on this universe which was more boundless than it, as it encompassed all merciful living kind in the heavenly pace that forever enveloped its sparkling form. There was no prayer on this universe. There was no prayer on this universe which was more revered than it, which was more revered than it, as it was a magical wand, as it was a magical wand for pioneering, for pioneering all forms and fraternities of vibrant life, sowing the cherishable seeds of a symbiotic existence. Oh yes, it made you feel the most invincible entity on this planet. Oh yes, oh yes, it made you feel the most invincible entity on this planet till the time you were in it, bequeathing upon you an incomprehensible ardor to lead a countless more lives. When you wonderfully came out, when you wonderfully came out, it was the ultimate place that you belonged to on this earth. It was the ultimate place that you belonged to on this earth. The very reason that you were able to read and I was able to fervently write until this line. When you wonderfully came out, when you wonderfully came out, it was the ultimate place that you belonged. It was the ultimate place that you belonged to on this earth. The very reason that you were able to read and I was able to fervently write until this line. The only cradle which gave you life, the only cradle on this globe which embraced you like an angel, even after your condemnable death. Even after your condemnable death. In fact, a place none other than your own blood and signature. A place none other than your mother's womb. In fact, a place none other than your own blood and signature. A place none other than your mother's womb. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to me. From the innermost realm of my soul, I wanted to express my appreciation for your spectacular patronization to my poetry. Thank you.